Welcome back to the channel. And does Leonard Taylor deserve Jalen Carter type expectations going into next season, right? So, football villain. So they released some information. I'm not going to say if that information was good. I'm not going to say if that information was bad. You need to become a villain and find out. But what I will say, the information was pertaining to Leonard Taylor. Again, not saying the information was good. Not going to say the information was bad. I'm just going to say become a villain and find out. Right. But it got me to thinking, right? It got me to thinking about the draft. Obviously, coming into last season, many people had picked Will Anderson to probably be the number 1 overall pick. He or Bryce Young. As the season goes, guys rise, guys fall. So, but a guy that I feel like has pretty much stayed in that top 5 talk is Jalen Carter. Now, you may ask, Shai, why'd you pick Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter literally probably the best interior defensive lineman in college football. Well, the reason I picked Jalen Carter is for a simple reason. This is the level that we should measure Leonard Taylor against. We should measure him against the best because we want the best for Leonard Taylor. That's what we want. He's going into his junior year. And so I said, well, how does he measure up against Jalen Carter? Is he ahead of Jalen Carter as a sophomore? Is he behind Jalen Carter or he and Jalen Carter equal, right? So what is it, right? Obviously, they both have the same body build in terms of they're both listed at 6'3", 300, but obviously, of course, information that we read or information that we heard this particular year that he had to go sit down with Coach Cristobal and somewhat refocus, right? Picked up a little bit more weight. I think he got up to in the 280, so he's really not 300 right now. But Jalen Carter looks 300. he looks 300. He's a big guy, right? But obviously, I know some people don't like PFF. I'm one of the people, I don't necessarily like PFF, but again, we're making a comparison video, so I don't have film to break down, so I got to use what was readily accessible to me. I'm also not the stats guy because for the simple fact that you can put stats in wherever you want stats to fit, right? So if you want this player to seem better, then you say, okay, well, this is the stat, but we're not getting into all that. We're just gonna keep it on the surface, right? We're gonna keep it on the surface. So I'm comparing their sophomore years, right? So Jalen Carter is a sophomore. I got my paper up here, so my eyes are going to be up here for a little bit. Jalen Carter played in 14 games. Of course, they won the national championship, their first national championship since the 80s. Jalen Carter had 37 total tackles, 8.5 for loss, 3 sacks. That was his overall statistics as a sophomore. Leonard Taylor played in 12 games. Obviously, we didn't even make we didn't play in a bowl game, right? So LT had 24 total tackles, 10.5 for loss, and 3 sacks. So he has Jalen Carter out by 2 tackles for loss. Obviously, Jalen Carter had 13 more tackles, right, than LT had. Now, what's interesting is I don't know what PFF has going on because on one particular metric, it had a overall defensive grade for Jalen Carter. It was 2 different grades. One of them was 85.3, the other one was 84. But I'll go with the high number just for comparison's sakes. So he was at 85.3 defensive grade. Leonard Taylor was at 87.3. 87.3. Now, man, I'm sweating. I gotta get the air conditioner fixed in my truck. Gotta get my air conditioner fixed. But again, like I said, both guys are listed at 6'3", 300, even though we know Leonard Taylor's not 300 pounds. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Again, going back to PFF, where they break down different particular grades and stuff like that, right? So, I'm giving you run D, tackle grade, pass rush grade, and then overall snaps. I'm going to give you that for Jalen Carter, I'm going to give you that for LT, and then I'm going to give you Jalen Carter's junior grades that they gave him, right? So, run defense, Jalen Carter was 76.9. He had a tackling grade of 45.4, pass rush grade of 86.6, and he played 290 snaps. Now, I think it was earlier this particular season, I know some guys were arguing about the amount of snaps and talking about how Georgia made sure they kept their best players on the field for the majority of snaps. But obviously, of course, we know 2021, Georgia was just dominating everybody, so that could play a role in the amount of snaps that Jalen Carter had, and Jalen Carter could have quite possibly had better statistics. But again, there's no need to get into all of the what ifs and all this stuff. We're just gonna take what we have readily accessible to us. So, by comparison, Leonard Taylor's run defense grade was 79.5. 79.5. Run defense grade higher than Jalen Carter. LT's tackle grade was 53.5. Higher than Jalen Carter's tackle grade. Pass rush was 85.5. Lower than Jalen Carter's 86.6. Jalen Carter, like I said, played 290 snaps. Leonard Taylor played 329, right? So he played more snaps, right? So that's interesting. So when we look at these particular metrics, Leonard Taylor is right there with Jalen Carter, and Jalen Carter is in talks of being, if not the first overall pick in the draft, but a top 5 pick in the draft. And again, like I said, we want to compare our players to the best, especially when we see that particular potential. Now, this is the interesting thing right here. This is the caveat. Let's go to Jalen Carter's junior year. I didn't worry about the statistics. I just wanted to keep it with the PFF grades. I guess I'm being a little lazy. His total grade defensively last year was 91.8. Run defense, 91.3. Way up. Tackle grade went up to 68.7. Way up. Pass rush took a dip down, 84.5. And he played less snaps this year than he played in 2021 at 263 total snaps. Now, those are some lofty numbers. Those are some lofty grades that PFF put on Jalen Carter. But again, these are the type of numbers that we're talking about when we're talking about a guy that is pegged to be a top 5 draft pick. So going back to LT's numbers, LT again as a sophomore, run D 79.5, tackle 53.5, pass rush 85.5, total of 329 snaps. So again, to get into this particular ballpark, LT has to raise his run D, his tackling. Pass rush is good right now, but it can be better. And so obviously hopefully if he picks up more weight and he plays with more consistent, because it was JT Love. He commented on one of my videos and he said, "Man, Shad, you've been a little hard on LT." I'm like, no, I'm not being hard on LT. LT is not as consistent as he needs to be. People that look at more film than I do just say there's some tiny things that if LT does those tiny things, this Jalen Carter comparison doesn't sound as wild as I know some of the people that are going to enjoy this video think they are. Some tiny, tiny tweaks to his game. Now, am I saying that LT is going to be a top 5 draft pick? I'm not saying that. Because I think if LT plays at a top 5 draft pick level, I mean, we ain't going 6-6. That's for sure. We ain't going 6-6 if LT turns into Jalen Carter. Hey, I can rip that prediction up with Cam on the back, but again, we're just talking about if LT plays, if he makes those minor tweaks to his game, man. And again, like I said, all these particular metrics, it seems like he's right there with Jalen Carter. Now, obviously, Jalen Carter had the benefit of playing on a great defense 2 years in a row. Obviously, a team that won the national championship. Obviously, he deserves every accolade that he gets. But to answer my own question, yes, Leonard Taylor does deserve Jalen Carter type expectations going into the 2023 season. And I'm standing on that. I'm stamping it. All right. But as always, man, like, share, subscribe, and again in the comments, man, you guys let me know what y'all think, because I know a lot of times, when we talk about current players, a lot of fans like to compare them to some of our older players, and to me, I don't think that's necessarily fair. Because somebody say, oh man, LT reminds me of Jerome Brown or Warren Sapp or something like that, and I don't think that's fair to the young man, because we're talking about a Jerome Brown who, had it not been for the unforeseen tragedy that occurred, we're talking about first ballot Hall of Famer. Obviously Warren Sapp, Hall of Famer. So again, let's keep him kind of with his peers, right? Let's keep him with his peers. Jalen Carter, a good start, right? But again, as always, man, like, share, subscribe, comment. And as always, it's all about the you.